This is the Yokel Idaho Midweek Report, where we give you a quick overview of the news in Idaho for the last week. This week we have a very full one with an update on the Kroger and Albertsons merger, some news about Coeur d'Alene setting some records when it comes to crime in the best way possible, and some news about the GOP and stuff with the legislature, some things related to the earthquake we had earlier last week, and some things up in the mountains. So stay with us as we go through all the stories here. Starting off with our main one here, Kroger-Albertsons merger faces major legal hurdle with FTC lawsuit. This comes by the Boise Dab by Gretchen Parsons. The proposed $24.6 billion merger between grocery behemoth Kroger and Albertsons has hit another significant roadblock as the Federal Trade Commission, or FTC, announcing its intent to sue to block the deal. This legal challenge, supported by 9 states, raises concerns about the potential harm to consumers and employees. The merger, which would unite 2 of the nation's largest grocery chains, has been under scrutiny since its announcement in the fall of 2022, with opponents warning of antitrust issues, possible store closures, and the likelihood of increasing prices for consumers. The FTC's stance is clear. The merger could lead to higher prices, lower quality products and services, as well as a diminished competition. The agency's fears that the consolidation of Kroger and Albertsons would eliminate the healthy rivalry that currently drives them to offer better produce, private label products, and in-store services. The FTC's Bureau of Competition Director, Henry Liu, emphasized that the merger could exacerbate the financial strain on consumers who have already been facing rising grocery costs in recent years. The implications for the workforce are also a point of contention. The FTC argues that the merger would reduce the bargaining power of nearly 700,000 employees, many of whom are members of the United Food and Commercial Workers UFCW union, kind of harder to say that. The UFCW has publicly opposed the merger, insisting on the protection of their members' jobs and the maintenance of collective bargaining agreements. Additionally, the FTC criticized the proposed divestiture plan, which involves spinning off several hundred stores to C&S Wholesale Grocers as an, quote, inadequate, end quote, and unlikely to sustain competition against the merged entity. In response, both Kroger and Albertsons have defended the merger, claiming it would not harm but rather benefit consumers and employees and help them compete against larger non-unionized retailers. They argued that the FTC's decision could lead to higher food prices and more grocery deserts. As the FTC prepares to present its case in federal court with a unanimous vote to file a temporary restraining order and a preliminary injunction, the future of this merger hangs in the balance with significant implications for the grocery industry and its consumers nationwide. Speaking of things failing to go according to plan, failed execution of Idaho inmate Thomas Creech. This comes by the Idaho Dispatch as a press release. The awaited execution of Thomas Creech has been postponed once again, this time due to medical complications that rendered the execution unfeasible. This development marks yet another delay in the pursuit of justice for the families of Creech's numerous victims. The list of those who fell prey to Creech's violence have been many. For 49 years, Creech has been a figure of media interest. Despite the extensive coverage, the focus now shifts to the failed execution attempt and the reason behind its failure. The inability to carry out the execution due to medical reasons raised questions about the complexity and challenges of the death penalty process, particularly in the case of involving aging or ill inmates. The specifics of why the execution could not proceed have not been disclosed, but such instances often involve difficulty with finding a viable vein for lethal injection. This underscores the intricate balance between the state's duty to administer justice and the practical realities of implementing capital punishment.
Which brings us to Coeur d'Alene sets record low crime rates. This comes from KTVB7 by Bill Bewley and Coeur d'Alene Press. Coeur d'Alene is making headlines for its remarkable achievement in public safety as the city reports a significant drop in crime to record low numbers. Police Chief Lee White, in a detailed presentation to the Coeur d'Alene Sunrise Rotary Club, highlighted the unique approach to policing that has set Coeur d'Alene apart from other Pacific Northwest agencies. The city witnessed a 3.2% decrease in Part 1 crimes, which include serious offenses such as aggravated assault, arson, burglary, rape, and robbery, falling to 710 offenses in 2023 from 734 in 2022. This marks a historic low in the city's crime rate since the Idaho State Police began tracking crime in Idaho publications in 1995. Chief White attributes this remarkable decline to three key factors: the department's swift emergency response times, a strong emphasis on community engagement, and a proactive stance on apprehending felons. He emphasized the importance of making the criminal element feel unwelcome in Coeur d'Alene, stating, "There are people that wake up every day and look for crimes to commit." End quote. The strategy is clear. Make it known that criminals will be caught and prosecuted with vigor, thereby deterring them from targeting Coeur d'Alene for their illicit activities. This proactive and community-focused approach to policing has not only contributed to the city's safety, but also bolstered its reputation as a place where crime does not pay. White also noted that drug dealers from neighboring Washington state are deterred by Idaho's harsher sentencing laws and the aggressive prosecution efforts in Coeur d'Alene. This strategic blend of quick action, community involvement, and a no-tolerance policy towards crime serves as a model for other cities aiming to enhance public safety and reduce crime rates.
And speaking of things related to public safety, Idaho bill to restrict public aid to undocumented immigrants stalls in committee. This comes by several sources. In a significant turn of events, the Idaho legislature has halted the progression of House Bill 615, a proposal aimed at preventing undocumented immigrants from accessing publicly funded assistance, sponsored by Representative Jordan Redmond, a Republican from Coeur d'Alene, and Josh Tanner, a Republican from Eagle. The bill sought to make Idaho less attractive to undocumented immigrants by denying them access to public benefits such as vaccines, prenatal care, and food assistance. Despite the sponsors' intentions, the bill faced opposition from both sides of the aisle. Concerns were raised about the potential harm to undocumented mothers and children in need of essential health services. The House Health and Welfare Committee ultimately voted 7-5 to hold the bill in committee, effectively blocking its advancement to the House floor for a vote. Critics of the bill, including representatives from the ACLU of Idaho and PODER of Idaho, argued that it was unconstitutional and would disproportionately harm the immunocompromised undocumented community. Proponents, however, believe it is necessary to prioritize the use of tax dollars for citizens legally residing in the state. The failure of House Bill 615 to move forward highlights the complex debate surrounding immigration and public assistance in Idaho. If you've liked what you've heard thus far in the Midweek Report, do us a favor and hit the like button on YouTube, Rumble, or Twitter. It helps us reach more folks who love Idaho just like you. Now, kind of transitioning and continuing with that, Idaho takes a stand against AI-generated exploitation. This comes from the East Idaho News by Clark Corbin. In a unanimous decision that underscores the growing concerns over digital privacy and exploitation, the Idaho House of Representatives has passed House Bill 575 with a vote of 66 in favor, 0 against, and 4 absent. It is a groundbreaking piece of legislation aimed at combating the misusage of artificial intelligence in creating and distributing sexually explicit images. Sponsor Representative Julie Young, a Republican from Blackfoot, and John Gannon, a Democrat from Boise. The bill marks a bipartisan effort to address the increasingly prevalent issue of digital harassment and exploitation. Under House Bill 575, the creation and dissemination of sexually explicit images generated by AI, intended to, quote, annoy, terrify, threaten, intimidate, harass, offend, humiliate, or degrade, end quote, any identifiable person would be classified as a criminal offense. This legislation also targets those who are threatened to disclose such media as a means of extortion, seeking money or other valuables in exchange for silence. The bill's passage is a step forward toward protecting Idahoans from the malicious use of technology to invade personal privacy and dignity. The proposed bill stipulates that a first violation will be treated as a misdemeanor, escalating to a felony for any subsequent offenses within a 5-year period. This tiered approach to penalties underscores the seriousness with which Idaho views the issue, aiming to deter potential offenders with the threat of significant legal repercussions. Representative Gannon emphasized that the bill is not about restricting free speech, but rather about safeguarding individuals from invasive acts that disrupt lives and violate privacy. As House Bill 575 now heads to the Idaho Senate for further consideration, stands as a testament to Idaho's commitment to adapting its legal framework to the challenges posed by modern technology. By taking a firm stance against unauthorized use of AI to generate and distribute sexually explicit content, Idaho lawmakers are sending a clear message. Exploitation and harassment have no place in the digital age. Keeping with stuff going on with legislatures, Idaho lawmakers consider giving county power over hospital tax breaks. This comes by the Boise Dab by Margaret Carmel. A new legislative proposal in Idaho could significantly change the financial landscape for nonprofit hospitals. Representative John Vander Wow, a Republican from Nampa, has received approval from the House Revenue and Taxation Committee to introduce a bill that would empower county boards of equalization, operated by county commissioners, to determine the extent of property tax exemptions for nonprofit hospitals. This could range from full to partial or no exemption at all. The bill targets nonprofit hospitals like St. Luke's and St. Al's in the Treasure Valley, which hold substantial property across Ada County, with 101 hospital-designated parcels valued at $1.3 billion. The potential property tax bill could exceed $10 million annually. This move follows previously unsuccessful attempts by Representative Josh Tanner, a Republican from Eagle, to increase taxes on such hospitals, aiming to provide property tax relief by expanding the tax base to include hospitals and out-of-patient medical facilities. On the proposed bill, county commissioners would no longer be legally bound to grant automatic tax exemptions to nonprofit hospitals. Instead, they would have the discretion to decide which properties qualify. The bill also seeks to redefine what constitutes hospital property, focusing on facilities like critical access hospitals and rural health clinics, and excluding acute care and outpatient facilities. To be considered for tax exemptions, hospitals would need to submit detailed annual reports demonstrating their commitment to community service and charity care, ensuring that the value of charity provided exceeds the potential tax exemption. This legislation could redefine the relation between nonprofit hospitals and local governments, potentially increasing their contribution to public coffers.
So, sticking with politics, we have Idaho GOP censures members over gender-affirming care stance. This comes by an Idaho Dispatch press release. In a move that underscores the ongoing tension within the Idaho Republican Party, Legislative District 33 has voted to censure Representatives David Lent and Marco Erickson. This decision, rooted in the representative's deviation from the GOP platform, highlights the party's efforts to ensure its members adhere to its foundational principles. The censure stems from accusations that Lent and Erickson did not align their actions with the Republican Party ideals they pledged to uphold, particularly concerning gender-affirming care for minors and the allocation of public funds for such treatments. Jillian Berger, chair of the Republican Legislative District 33, emphasized the committee's intention to collaborate with elected representatives, acknowledging their dedication and urging them to revisit the principles of natural law that underpin both the Idaho and U.S. constitutions and the Republican Party platform. This call to action reflects the party's desire for its members to legislate in a manner that aligns with these core values. The censure has sparked a range of reactions within the community, with some supporting the decision as a necessary measure to maintain party integrity, while others, including the ACLU of Idaho, argue that it infringes on the rights of transgender Idahoans and restricts access to essential medical care. Critics of the bill and the censure argue that transgender individuals, as taxpayers, should have the right to medical coverage that meets their needs, highlighting the broader debate over the role of public funds in gender-affirming treatments.
Speaking of things that have been a bit contentious, Sunrock's concrete plant proposal rejected in Nampa amidst public opposition. This comes by several sources. The city of Nampa has been abuzz with community engagement as residents rallied against the proposed construction of a concrete batch plant by Sunrock Corporation. The plan, which was to be located at 39 North Picard Lane, faced significant opposition from locals concerned about potential dust pollution, increased traffic from dump trucks, and the long-term health impacts on nearby schools and residential areas. After a series of packed public meetings, the Nampa Planning and Zoning Commission ultimately denied the conditional use permit for the plant in a close 5-4 vote. The decision came after Sunrock's initial permit expired due to a failure to obtain the necessary permits in time. Despite having already begun site preparations, the community's outcry was loud and clear, with over 50 individuals voicing their concerns about the plant's proximity to the Nampa Municipal Airport, potential visual visual obstruction for pilots and the health and safety of local children. Despite the setback, Sunrock has an option to appeal the decision within 14 days, which could bring the matter before the Nampa City Council. The controversy has highlighted the community's strong desire to maintain the quality of life in Nampa and the importance of public participation in local planning decisions. And speaking of some things you should plan on doing, don't hesitate to share this. Your shares help us spread the word about our wonderful state and news like this. In keeping with things that kind of shook things up a little bit, Idaho's Monday morning shake, earthquake hits near Smith's Ferry. It's come by several sources. On Monday, many of us across Idaho were jolted by a magnitude 4.9 earthquake, the largest to hit the state since the magnitude 6.5 quake in March of 2020. The tremor, which originated near Smith's Ferry, about 50 miles south of McCall, was felt as far as Boise and the Treasure Valley. Despite the surprise and concern that such an event naturally brings, authorities reported no significant damage or injuries. The quake struck at 10:25 a.m., followed by a series of smaller aftershocks, including a 2.7 magnitude quake shortly after the initial tremor. Valley County Sheriff's Office confirmed the absence of any injury or damage reports, providing some relief amidst the initial uncertainty. The Idaho Transportation Department was quick to assess infrastructure for potential damage, noting that only a minor rockfall on Idaho 55 was an immediate issue. Idaho Geological Survey Director Claudio Berti explained that while the quake was unexpected, residents should not be alarmed by the aftershock, which are typical following a seismic event of this size. In fact, more than 1,600 people reported feeling the quake, with some describing it as weak to moderate. As Idahoans reflect on the unexpected shakeup, it is important to note that Idaho ranks 5th in the nation for earthquake risk.
And that brings us to University of Idaho pioneers smart forestry with AI and remote sensing. This comes from KTVB7 by Idaho Today. The University of Idaho is at the forefront of a technological revolution in forest management, pioneering a program that stands as one of the nation's first to harness the power of remote sensing, artificial intelligence, and other digital tools. This innovative approach, known as smart forestry, is transforming the traditional practices of forest management by enabling a comprehensive and rapid assessment of forest health, which is crucial for timber production, clean water resources, wildlife habitat, and critically, wildlife safety. For years, forest management relied on the labor-intensive process of hands-on observation and measurement, a method that was not only time-consuming but also limited in scope, allowing only a fraction of a forest to be effectively monitored. Now, with the advent of smart forestry, the University of Idaho is leading the charge into a new era where entire landscapes can be analyzed with precision and efficiency. Idaho Today's Melissa Paul delved into the details of this transformative technology with Dennis Becker, Dean of the College of Natural Resources at the University of Idaho. Dean Becker shared insights on how smart forestry is not only improving the way we manage forests, but also how it's reshaping a century's worth of forest management practices. This leap into the digital age of forestry is positioning Idaho as a leader in sustainable forest management and conservation, showcasing the potential for technology to enhance our stewardship of the natural world.
Speaking of things related to the forest, Idaho moves to challenge grizzly bear protection under ESA. This comes by Idaho Dispatch via a press release. The state of Idaho is taking action to alter the conservation landscape for the grizzly bear in the lower 48 states. A proposed settlement, currently awaiting court approval, would compel the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to deliver a final rule by January 1st of 2026 that could revise or rescind the grizzly bear's threatened status under the Endangered Species Act, or ESA. Governor Little has voiced his support for the settlement, arguing that after more than 40 years of concerted conservation efforts, the ESA protections are no longer warranted for Idaho's grizzly bear populations. Attorney General Raul Labrador has reinforced the governor's stance, stating that the settlement provides a deadline and legal direction for Idaho to circumvent what he deems unnecessary ESA regulation. The settlement arises from Idaho's petition for delisting grizzly bears, which Fish and Wildlife Services rejected. It represents a broader push by states to assert its capability to manage wildlife without federal overreach. While the settlement does not guarantee the delisting of grizzly bears due to federal procedural norms, it challenges the 1975 listing rationale and opens the door for potential challenges in the grizzly bear management. With an estimated 2,000 grizzly bears in the lower 48 under ESA protection, compared to a total population of over 60,000 in North America, Idaho's proposed settlement could impact the future of grizzly bear conservation and state wildlife governance. Then coming out of the woods and related to weather, which we kind of had a bit of an interesting one last week, 7-vehicle pileup on ID Highway 33, a weather-induced traffic nightmare. This comes with East Idaho News by Rhett Nelson. Last Monday afternoon, a severe 7-vehicle collision on ID Highway 33 near Newdale brought traffic to a standstill, highlighting the perilous impact of weather conditions on road safety and travel. The crash, which occurred around 2:30 p.m. at milepost 116 east of Newdale, involved an array of vehicles, including a mix of trucks, a van, a tractor with a trailer, and a Toyota Tacoma, all traveling east on the time of the incident. The sequence of events leading to the collision remains unclear, with Idaho State Police investigating whether the vehicles collided with each other or veered off the road individually. Among the drivers involved were residents from across Idaho, ranging in ages from 26 to 66, all of whom were wearing seatbelts at the time of the crash. The crash was likely exacerbated by the poor visibility and treacherous road conditions. As emergency responders and cleanup crews worked tirelessly to clear the scene, traffic was backed up for several hours, reflecting the broader impact of such incidents on travel and community safety. While Highway 33 has since reopened, the event serves as a stark reminder of the unpredictable nature of weather and its capacity to swiftly transform routine travel into a matter of urgent emergency response and public concern. The ongoing investigation into the crash will hopefully shed further light on the circumstances. Speaking of circumstances you can change, if you like what you've been hearing thus far about Idaho, make sure to subscribe or follow so you don't miss any of our future content.
And that brings us to Pocatello's historic downtown to host 13th Annual Brewfest Extravaganza. This comes by the East Idaho News by Logan Ramsey. Pocatello is buzzing with excitement as it gears up for its most anticipated beer tasting event of the year, the 13th Annual Brewfest. Scheduled for Saturday, March 9 from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m., this landmark event promises an unforgettable experience for beer enthusiasts and community members alike. With 17 participating locations across downtown, attendees will have the unique opportunity to enjoy unlimited beer pours with the purchase of a ticket, offering a perfect blend of exploration and indulgence. Stephanie Pelagi, president and CEO of historic downtown Pocatello, highlights the significance of Brewfest, not only as a major attraction for the downtown area, but also as a vital economic booster for local businesses and a draw for tourism. An expected crowd of around 1,200 people will meander through the historic streets, sampling a diverse array of beers at various bars and restaurants, each bringing its unique flavor to the mix. Participating venues range from Jim Dandy Brewing to the Union Tap Room and the Yellowstone Restaurant, among others, featuring 35 visiting brewers and over 80 beers. Tickets for the event are available for $30 in advance until 5 p.m. on March 8, with a special pre-party at Wonderlust offering last-minute purchases. On the day of Brewfest, tickets will be sold for $35 at designated locations, ensuring everyone has a chance to partake in the festivities.
Speaking of festivities, we all love food truck food at times. Boise simplifies food truck and farmers market licensing. This comes by the Boise Dev by Margaret Carmel. Boise's culinary landscape is set for a transformation as the Boise City Council, responding to a proposal from Mayor Lauren McLean's Economic Development Advisor Andrea Cantor, has approved a simplification of the licensing process for food trucks and vendors at farmers markets. This aims to eliminate the bureaucratic hurdles, making it easier for entrepreneurs to bring their culinary creations to the streets and markets of Boise. The streamlined process will maintain all necessary food handling and fire prevention safety inspections, but will do away with the redundant licensing and background check requirements for workers, a stipulation not demanded of restaurant employees. The decision comes after feedback from the community highlighting the confusing and often restrictive licensing regime that has hampered compliance and stifled the growth of food trucks in the city. Cantor clarified that these changes are focused on licensing and would not have affected situations like the recent closure of the Switchback Food Truck Park, which was due to other regulatory and financial changes. This initiative mirrors the city's previous efforts to reduce red tape in other areas, such as in-home childcare, signaling a broader move towards fostering a more business-friendly environment in Boise. Under the new system, food truck owners will no longer need to juggle multiple licenses to operate. The requirement for an eating and drinking mobile license from the city of Boise, which merely duplicated the Central District Health's approval, will be scrapped. Additionally, food trucks will be classified similarly to brick-and-mortar restaurants, removing the need for individual employee vendor licenses and background checks. This change is particularly aimed at supporting budding entrepreneurs, including those from refugee backgrounds, by simplifying the regulatory landscape. Similarly, vendors at public markets like the Boise Farmers Market will be exempt from obtaining the city's mobile eating and drinking license, with the responsibility for ensuring vendors' compliance shifting to the market organizer. This haul is expected not only to ease the administrative burden on city staff, but also encourage a more vibrant and diverse food scene in Boise, benefiting both vendors and consumers alike.
And talking about local communities, we have agriculture to urbanization, the impact of new housing developments on Caldwell. This comes from the Boise Dev by Autumn Robertson. Caldwell, Idaho has a significant decision before it as plans unfold to convert vast stretches of its agricultural land into a bustling residential and commercial hub. Brighton Development has unveiled an ambitious project, Midland 2026, which proposes to repurpose approximately 406 acres along Idaho Highway 2026 into a vibrant mixed-use community. This long-term project is segmented into 4 distinct phases: the Lower 5, Highline, Midland Farms, and the Aviary, with the latter poised to kickstart the development. The Aviary phase, sprawling across 148 acres, is designed to offer an array of housing options, including 264 front-loaded homes, 135 alley-loaded homes, and a combination of 73 townhomes. Beyond residential spaces, plans also include 7.6 acres dedicated to commercial development, potentially accommodating dental, medical, retail, and storage facilities. This phase alone aims to introduce nearly 500 new homes to the Caldwell landscape, alongside amenities such as a pool, clubhouse, and pickleball court, promising a comprehensive community experience. As Caldwell eyes this transition from fertile farmlands to urban dwellings, the project navigates through city planning and zoning regulations, seeking approvals for rezones and comprehensive map amendments. While the Aviary seeks immediate commencement, the future of the remaining areas remains open for development plans, hinting at a gradual reshaping of Caldwell's identity. This shift from agriculture to urbanization reflects the growing demand for housing and raises questions about land use, community growth, and the preservation of Caldwell's agricultural heritage. The Caldwell community stands at a crossroads, envisioning a future that balances growth with its rich farming roots.
Now, as we come to the end of the episode, thank you for listening to the entire report. I sincerely hope you found it enjoyable and valuable. If you liked the Midweek Report, make sure to check out our full show, where John and I talk about the main stories going on in Idaho and break them down for you. Also, if we missed any important points or provided incorrect information, please feel free to reach out to us via email at localyocolidaho2022@gmail.com or on Twitter by tweeting us at localyocolidaho. With the small team we have, we're not able to cover everything, but we do our best to cover the most interesting and important stories. Thank you for your continued support and assistance. That's all for now, and I wish you a fantastic rest of your week. Godspeed.